Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. Remember when you elected your governor, I did not vote for him, but many of you did. He said we're only one tax increase away from prosperity, and we passed this gigantic $1 billion tax increase. Well, now we've got a $300 million budget surplus. What's going to happen to it? You won't get it back. We've asked John Schroeder, Treasury Secretary, who warned you about all this. He'll be with us this coming Tuesday, and we'll talk about this. Today, always an honor to have with us Dr. Bill Cassidy, U.S. Senator. Dr. Cassidy, good morning.
Good, Dumas. How are you, my friend?
I'm a lot better than the Supreme Court nominee who has really been put through hell this week.
He has been. On the other hand, he's a man of character. And I suspect that, he is, although he had preferred not happen, you get a sense that he has been prepared by life for tough situations, and I think he's bracing himself now, and I think we're already beginning to understand the situation a little bit better. I think he will do okay.
The Democratic Party, the senator from California, have you ever taken consideration that the Supreme Court nominee has two small children, and they're going through all this as well?
I read Eric Erickson, who does this kind of conservative blog, said that all this is about preserving Roe v. Wade. And the left is willing to do absolutely anything to protect Roe v. Wade, including getting something in August, not revealing it till 6 weeks later, then having the person not testify, even though this allegation has been made. And destroying a man's reputation along the way. So this is about Roe v. Wade.
So Monday, this all going to come to an end?
I can't say that for sure. Obviously, we're scheduled to vote next week, and I can't. If anybody tells you exactly they know how it's going to play, they will not say it. But right now, the woman who made the allegation is not going to testify, so she says. She was, and then she's not, which tells me she's been advised by attorneys on the left who are telling her, listen, maybe your testimony won't stand up, but if we can delay it, that's almost as good. And so I think it's going to happen, but I can't tell you for sure.
Okay. You've got medical issues. You get your medical situation taken care of. Then you get home and you get this gigantic surprise medical cost. And you have introduced legislation co-sponsoring it to lower costs for patients and increase health care price transparency. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think everybody's had the situation where they've got some care and then they find out that they have been charged far more than they thought possible, sometimes thousands of dollars for something that would only cost $100 someplace else, and they call their insurance company and they say, why am I getting this big bill? Because I went to a hospital that you tell me is in network. Well, you go to that hospital, and it turns out the hospital's in network, but the doctor's on. And you were never told that. So that just doesn't seem fair to me. Now, you have to be fair to the doctors. I'm a doctor. I totally know you got to be fair to them. But the patient shouldn't be the one bearing the brunt of that. So what we've done is we've introduced what's called a discussion draft. Let's first get an idea of what people think. And once we've done that, we're going to start hearing back from people, but we hope to eventually put in the legislation that would say, listen, the patient goes to a hospital, it's in network, but the doctor's not, then you're not going to stick the patient with a huge bill. The patient's going to be protected from that. And she is going to be able to say to her husband, baby, they weren't network, but that's okay because we are protected from having to pay an exorbitant bill. That's our goal, and I think we'll be successful.
You're also working on getting it where that you can pay cash for pharmacy visits and maybe save money.
This is incredible. So there are certain middlemen, insurance companies called pharmacy benefit managers, which will go to the pharmacist, and they'll say to the pharmacist, listen, a patient may come to you. It might be cheaper for her to pay cash, say $35, than her insurance copay, which is $50. But if you tell her that it's cheaper to pay cash, you lose your contract with us. The pharmacist is gagged. He is not allowed to tell the patient that which is true, that she would save money by paying cash. So we just passed something out of the Senate, and we have two bills, but both will be passed, in which it definitely says that the middleman, the pharmacy benefit manager, cannot penalize a pharmacist for telling a patient that it's cheaper to pay cash than to pay her insurance copay. Again, we're trying to give power to the patient. Let's just make it more affordable for her, and let's just keep her from getting ripped off by the system.
Okay, we're now #1 oil producer in the world. What does this mean?
Yeah, first it means the success of President Trump's goal to make us energy dominant. That's the first thing to say. Secondly, it means a lot of jobs for a lot of people in Louisiana and other states. It means royalty payments for people who own property with oil beneath it. It means more money going to school boards and sheriff's departments, because in our state, a percent of that royalty goes to the school boards and sheriff's departments for them to do their business. It really is, and it's good for us internationally, because we can ship our oil to someplace and maybe not have to worry so much about a war in the Middle East. Our kids don't go over there. Our kids stay home because we've been able to take care of our own energy needs. There's a lot of positive things about this.
So would this be a good time for John Bel Edwards to call off his war on the oil industry?
I think the amount of jobs created by the oil industry in Louisiana and the amount of prosperity is tremendous. And when you discourage that, that's bad for jobs. It's bad for, again, those school boards, those sheriff's departments, etc. You need that source of jobs to keep that source of prosperity.
Our guest this morning, the Honorable U.S. Senator Dr. Bill Cassidy. Back with Dr. Cassidy in a moment. Our guest today is U.S. Senator Dr. Bill Cassidy. Okay, we're getting close to elections inside 50 days. Democrats running ads all over the country saying, hey, if you vote Republican, they're trying to take away protection for pre-existing conditions. Is that going to happen?
It is not going to happen. Republicans have been staunchly against that. I've introduced legislation specifically saying that any changes have to take care of people with pre-existing conditions. But I will say one thing. You know, if you want to know what kills the ability of somebody to afford insurance, it is Obamacare, under which premiums have risen to as much as $50,000 a year. If you throw in the copay and the co-insurance. Moon Griffon, you know Moon.
I know.
He may be on your radio station.
Yeah,
he talks about how his policy is $50,000 a year if you throw in his insurance. And now that's what kills somebody with pre-existing conditions. We're going to try and make insurance more affordable as well.
North Korea, the dictator there, wants to set up a new summit with Trump. He's wanting to denuclearize that country. Why can't we give President Trump credit for bringing some dictator to the table that nobody else has been able to?
I give him total credit. And I just saw an article in the New York Times, of all places. Give Trump his due. His foreign policy is working. And I do think that Trump comes across as being a little crazy. And when it comes to North Korea, it helps. Because that guy says, oh my gosh, Trump's crazy enough to do something about me. No one else has been crazy enough to do something about him. They keep on trying to negotiate him with him like he's a normal guy. He's not a normal guy. And so I think Trump deserves total credit for what he's doing with foreign policy. I think his foreign policy with Iran has been very successful, limiting what they can do, stretching them, creating internal problems, going after ISIS. When he got elected, Trump said, I'm going after ISIS. He's going after ISIS with great success. I give him a lot of credit.
U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy, along with Chris Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut, introduced a resolution recognizing September as National Suicide Prevention Month. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S. Is suicide rates going up or not?
Suicide rates are going up, and it's part related to the opioid epidemic. If you look at white males between the age of 35 and 55 who didn't go to college, their lifespans are actually decreasing. They are less likely to live a long, healthy life than they used to be. That like never happens. And they call it death from despair. Over the last decade, their economic opportunity has decreased, their opportunity to advance in jobs has decreased, and so people just say they call it death from despair. On the other hand, that's changing now. What we can say now is that the jobless rate, or the employment rate, I should say, for veterans is at a record high. The employment rate for people of color is at a record high, and even the job market for college dropouts is increasing dramatically. So one positive thing of this economy we've had since President Trump has been elected is that all this job growth and wage growth for people who've had a really hard time under the Obama years hopefully will begin to make them feel better about life. Hopefully will decrease the suicide rate among this group.
In a letter, John Kennedy, you and other Louisiana elected officials warned against threatening Louisiana energy jobs with a tariff on barite. What the hell is barite?
Barite is something which is used down the hole, so to speak, something which is used to in drilling mud and other substances. So it is essential. It is essential to keeping open a drilling hole so that the oil or the gas can come back out. And a lot of it's produced in China. It's produced in China, but it has no substitute here in the United States. And so we're not sure that, in fact, I don't think there should be a tariff on it. It doesn't hurt China if there's a tariff. It only hurts American jobs. I'm all about American jobs. I'm hoping that the administration agrees with me on that.
Okay, we got midterm elections coming up. We're getting close. All kind of mixed signals out there. We had an election in Texas where that Republicans took a location that was been held by Democrats over 100 years. But all the indications are Republicans are going to lose heavily in the midterm elections. You got any kind of prediction?
I think if the president is tweeting and talking about the economy, what we just mentioned, again, employment for high school dropouts at a record high. Employment for veterans is at a record high. For people of color is at a record high. For women is a near record high. If he's talking about that and the wage growth, then I think we do better. If the president's tweeting about the Russia investigation or something else, then I think we are more likely to do poorly. And so I'd say we as Republicans need to talk about the positive economic news over the last 2 years and not get distracted by everything that the left would like us distracted by.
Do voters vote based on issues, or do they vote based on the success of the country?
I think it first begins with pocketbook. And if somebody is feeling financially secure, then hopefully that says they say, I feel a lot better over the last 2 years when Republicans had control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency than I did for the previous 8 when we had Democratic control for everything for a while and then of the presidency after that. If they're voting their pocketbook, I think Republicans do pretty well. If they're voting about all the noise that, as Dougie, if you feel muggy, call Dougie, fake news on CNN. If they're voting on fake news, then Republicans are going to have a harder time.
You have probably just made Duck's day.
What a good ad.
You should hear some of the others. Okay, before we take commercial break, Dr. Bill Cassidy, intelligent person, very knowledgeable, has a great ability to foresee the future. Did you see LSU upsetting Auburn?
Oh, my gosh. Let me ask you, did you see that punt return against your favorite Razorbacks? Where the guy did not call a fair catch, but pretended he did, and then took off and scored a touchdown? What a play.
Well, Arkansas has beat one high school this year, so I guess the season can be a success. Dr. Bill Cassidy is with us this morning. We'll be right back. in a moment. Don't go away. Stay with us. Our guest this morning, U.S. Senator Dr. Bill Cassidy. President Trump closed the PLO office in Washington, D.C., something I think should have happened decades ago. Agree, disagree? What's your thoughts?
I think he's trying to move things off, just trying to get things moving. And right now, whatever is proposed, the PLO says no. So I think he's trying to get their attention, saying, if you say no, you lose. I think he's trying to move things. Whatever people think, Trump's been fairly successful with this. Hopefully he continues to have success.
If you were going to look in your crystal ball, what happens with the Mueller investigation?
I think that we will soon know. If Manafort has something to say about Russian collusion, I think we're going to know pretty soon. And if he doesn't, we should know pretty soon. I sent out a tweet basically saying to Mueller, either show that you've got something on Trump or let it go. The president clearly is distracted. We've got too much going on in the world to have a president who is distracted. And so he should be focused on North Korea, Iran, and the economy, what's going on with China and trade, as opposed to the Mueller investigation. So I do think it's important for Mueller to either to put up or to show that he doesn't have it and to shut it down.
Okay, but if Mueller closes this investigation, he's giving up the limelight, a lot of money, a lot of power. Why would he have any incentive to ever close it?
Because it's good for the United States. Our founding fathers said that presidents should not be prosecuted for crimes that happened before they were elected, precisely so presidents can focus on the issues at hand. And we need this president, any president, to focus on the issues at hand, not to be continually distracted by things which, as best as we can tell, do not involve him.
Regardless of who's in power, impeachment's a pretty difficult test to prove, is it not? I mean, there's a lot of discussion by crazy Democrats like Maxine Waters and people like that who are screaming for impeachment. That's not an easy task to accomplish, is it?
It's a political decision, and no, it is not, and it shouldn't be. Our founding fathers deliberately made it difficult. And I think what she is trying to do, as you speak of Maxine Waters, is really try and rally a base as opposed to really speak to what is possible.
Do you think the average Democrat likes the socialism direction the Democratic Party is taking?
I absolutely do not. If you think about what has happened over the economy, and we've talked about it, again, record employment for veterans, record employment for people who are high school dropouts, wages beginning to grow. This is not happening because of Obama policies, which are much more socialistic in orientation. They've happened under Trump policies. Trump policies would say, wait a second, let's give those who are creating jobs more reason to create jobs. And if you give them more reason, then lo and behold, more people are employed. Wages are starting to grow. That's what we need.
The donut hole that many people get enticed into, that's when your insurance gets to a certain level and you've got to pay the major part of it. Anything can be done there or not?
Absolutely. There's so much that can be done there. One, you can get greater value for what you're doing. One thing I and other Republicans are pushing for is so-called price transparency, so that if you go someplace, you would know how much it costs. We just had testimony that certain procedures, say a knee replacement, can cost $17,000 at one place and maybe $100,000 someplace else. And the patient would never know. There was an article out of New Orleans a little bit ago in which a blood test
Your Country Connection,
$300.
107.1 KWLV, Manny.